So we want to examine what monetary policy looks like in action on our aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. And so we can imagine a scenario where we see our short run and our long run aggregate supply curve, and our equilibrium, our short run equilibrium, is where aggregate demand is equal to short run aggregate supply curve. We can see that the long run equilibrium is going to happen here on our long run aggregate supply curve, but unfortunately, we may not actually be there at any point in time. And so that's when, according to the Keynesian theory, you need monetary policy to help you out. And so if this was our scenario where we are at this short run equilibrium where aggregate demand, short run aggregate supply curve come together at point A, what we can say about point A is that we are living below our potential. We are not at our full capacity. And of course, we can wait around for the economy to adjust and react to this situation. But the whole Keynesian theory of monetary and fiscal policy is you don't have to wait. And so the idea of conducting monetary policy is to have a short-run impact on our aggregate demand curve. Clearly, looking at this picture, what we would like is for aggregate demand to shift to the right. So what we would like to see is aggregate demand to be nudged to the right just so it perfectly hits that point there. So we'd want that action to happen. And so what we've been learning about monetary policy is how do we do that? This is all supposed to intersect here, so let me just make that a big old dot. What we've been learning with monetary policy is how we can do that. And so we're trying to expand the economy. And so one of the reasons we call it expansionary monetary policies, we are growing GDP. We don't particularly want to grow the price level, but it is going to happen. But it's not necessarily a bad thing because at point A, we are living below the price level that we are expecting. The short run average supply curve is expecting us to be at this price level. So really we are kind of getting back to where we should be. And so this would be expansionary monetary policy in the static model, right? We're going to assume at the moment that this is a static model, so long run average supply curve is staying still. And so we just need to do this little nudge. And so if you think back to what we've learned about expansionary monetary policy, we are talking about if we're going to do open market operations, the preferred tool for the Fed, we're talking about them giving the order of buying bonds. And when they buy the bonds, that will result in more money going into the banking system, more deposits being made, reserves growing, and so the money supply will increase, and that means that the interest rates will decrease. And that's the magic of the Keynesian model here, is that once interest rates decrease, we would expect to see consumption go up because savings will go down, and we'll expect to see investment go up because the cost of borrowing has gone down. And that's what causes the shift of aggregate demand to aggregate demand prime. So now we just want to take a quick look at the contractionary monetary policy in the static model. So why would I want to do contractionary monetary policy? Because I'm in a situation here at point A where my aggregate demand is beyond my long run supply curve. I'm having to deal with higher inflation. It's nice to have higher real GDP, but it's coming at a cost of this higher inflation. And so as the Federal Reserve attempts to do contractionary monetary policy, that would be because they are trying to decrease aggregate demand curve, send it to the left, and end up back on this long-run potential aggregate supply curve. That's what they want to do. So again, with contractionary monetary policy, what we would be looking at would be increasing the interest rate. We're looking to slow down activity. We want to decrease consumption by increasing savings, right? So higher interest rates increase savings, so consumption goes down. We want to decrease what businesses are doing in their investments. So you raise the cost of borrowing and you're going to see less investment. And both of those will cause the aggregate demand curve to decrease, and that is the picture we have here. So that's the basic illustration of expansionary and contractionary monetary policies using the static model. Let's go ahead and give an attempt at looking at the dynamic model. So with the dynamic model, long-run average supply curve is generally shifting to the right. And for the most part, we expect all our curves to generally be shifting to the right. And so what could be happening is we start off life in a very happy little place in our long-run equilibrium. But as the growth occurs, maybe our aggregate demand doesn't quite keep up with all the potential growth that happens. So long-run aggregate supply curve shows growth by shifting to the right. Short-run aggregate supply curve shows growth by also shifting to the right. But if aggregate demand lags behind, it doesn't quite make it to the long-run aggregate supply curve, we could end up in a scenario like this. We'll call that point A. And so what we're seeing here, and this is closer to the real world, which is the point of the dynamic model, is that we have had general growth, right? We have seen everything shift to the right. It's just that something's gone wrong in the economy and our demand curve hasn't quite kept up. And so again, now we can just look at this part and just think about the static model. What we would like to do is just to figure out a way to shift aggregate demand. So if you notice, I've written no policy under AD prime this time. And so the idea here, this is going to be our perfected monetary policy, is that the Federal Reserve will know that here we are starting, and this is the world we're heading to, and we don't want to be at point A. We really would prefer to be at this lovely point right here, point B. And so seeing the world is going to just leave us at A, the Federal Reserve would conduct expansionary monetary policy and hopefully do so in such a way that we actually end up at AD prime, I guess, with monetary policy. And so they don't allow point A to happen. That's the dynamic way of showing how monetary policy would happen. Now, in the real world, the chances of them having all of this just right, implementing the correct amount of policy at the right time, isn't too likely. It's a good shot that instead of getting all the way to point B, they might underdo it, and we end up somewhere in between A and B. Or they could overdo it or implement it too late, and we could end up out here somewhere. So monetary policy, it really is more art than science, but this here shows you what they would intend to do in the dynamic model, is to recognize that we essentially are going to fall short and end up at point A. And so if they give the economy the kick in the pants it needs with expansionary monetary policy, they could end up at B. Likewise, you could imagine drawing a scenario where instead of ending up below our potential, that the Fed can see that, oh, the economy's overheating, it's overheating, we're going to end up over here. It's best that we start to raise the interest rates and put the drag on the economy so that aggregate demand doesn't overshoot, but instead, again, ends up here. So that's how you could show contractionary monetary policy in the dynamic model.